Revelstoke is a city in southeastern British Columbia. Revelstoke is 640 kilometers, or close to 400 miles east of Vancouver, and 415 kilometers, or about 260 miles west of Calgary. The city is on the banks of the Columbia River, just south of the Revelstoke Dam. In 2023, the population was approximately 9,000. Mining was an important early industry. Revelstoke was founded in the 1880s when the Canadian Pacific Railway, the CPR, came through. The city was named by the CPR. The construction of the Trans-Canada Highway in 1962 further improved access. Since then, tourism has become a local economic driver. Skiing has emerged as the most prominent attraction. Mount Revelstoke National Park is north of and adjacent to the city. The park is relatively small for a national park, covering 260 square kilometers or 100 square miles. Located in the Selkirk Mountains, it was founded in 1914. About 600,000 visitors enter Mount Revelstoke and nearby Glacier National Park each year. Revelstoke is situated in prime bear habitat. Mount Revelstoke National Park is home to many mammals, including black bear, grizzly bear, wolverine, mountain goat, moose, pine marten, and coyote. Revelstoke has a humid continental climate. Summers are warm and rainy with cool nights. Winters are cold, snowy, and cloudy. Revelstoke experiences about 50 days below 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and about 2 weeks above 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Revelstoke holds the Canadian record for the snowiest single winter. That was 1971-72. Heavy snowfalls have made Revelstoke home to heli-skiing, cat skiing, and backcountry skiing. Revelstoke is also a snowmobiling destination. Traditionally, Revelstoke's economy has been tied to the CPR and maintains a strong connection. But forestry, construction, tourism, and retail have broadened its economy. The Revelstoke Railway Museum recognizes its attachment to the CPR and is popular with tourists. It is also the location of the Revelstoke Dam on the Columbia River, which was completed in 1984. The former local British Columbia Junior Hockey League, or BCJHL team, the Revelstoke Bruins, had a number of future NHL players on its roster in the 1970s and 80s. Today, the Revelstoke Forum is home to the Revelstoke Grizzlies, the current Kootenay International Junior Hockey League, or KIJHL team. Around noon on October 13th, 1920, Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Tylee and his pilot, Captain George A. Thompson, who was known as Tommy, took off from Calgary's Bowness flying field. They were on the last leg of the first Trans-Canada flight. It was organized by the Air Board and Canadian Air Force at the suggestion of Clare C. MacLaurin. MacLaurin was superintendent of the Jericho Beach Air Station at Vancouver. Tylee and Thompson had been at Calgary for 2 days, but weather had not favored a flight across the Rocky Mountains. The flight was delayed. The aircraft for this last leg had been shipped from eastern Canada to Calgary. The de Havilland Dean H-9A was a First World War RAF 2-seat day bomber. It was part of the imperial gift of more than 100 aircraft to Canada by Great Britain at the end of the First World War. 12 DH-9As had been included in the gift. 3 would participate in this Trans-Canada flight. The one selected for the last leg had been licensed built in England by the Whitehead Aircraft Company. It was powered by a 400 horsepower Packard Liberty engine. Thompson climbed westward into deteriorating weather, skirting clouds and snow showers over Banff and Lake Louise. They were sighted over Field, BC at 1:30 p.m. and Golden at 2. They were seen over Revelstoke an hour later. Thompson attempted to continue to Vernon. He ran into poor weather south of Revelstoke, forcing him to return to Revelstoke. The weather was clear at the time of arrival, but soon closed in. The Air Board had anticipated the possibility of a landing at Revelstoke and had arranged for a landing field south of town at Sam Crowell's ranch. At the time, the ranch was almost 3 miles by road from town. The first person to hear the engine was a city worker. He had been in France during the Great War of 1914-18. He is reported to have turned to his mates, remarking, "She's one of our planes." After circling overhead, Thompson landed at 2:25 p.m. Crowds had made their way to the field. Tylee and Thompson were dinner guests of Mayor Walter Buse. On Friday, October 15th, the clouds to the west broke. At 11:15 a.m., after helpers pushed the DH-9A to the end of the rancher's field, Thompson and Tylee took off, heading westward. At 1:45 p.m., they were sighted over Merritt, heading into the Coquihalla Pass. Fog and cloud made the pass impenetrable. They turned back to Merritt. There, they landed at Lawson Field on the Nicola Road. The first aircraft landing at Revelstoke had been at Sam Crowell's ranch. The area had been selected by an Air Board advance party headed by Captain J.E. Drummond. In mid-September 1920, the advance party had selected emergency landing areas at Revelstoke, Vernon, Merritt, and Agassiz. They had laid out each area and arranged for fuel and oil. This field was used occasionally in the 1920s. In early February 1934, a 1929 Waco Model ATO on skis arrived at Revelstoke. It was flown by Eric Deponsier of Vancouver. Deponsier again flew this Waco to Revelstoke early in the summer of 1935. An RCAF Grumman Goose arrived at Revelstoke on June 6, 1943, flown by Flight Lieutenant Howard A. McDonald. McDonald landed on the nearby Columbia River and taxied up onto dry land. McDonald was inspecting air cadets at Revelstoke. The next 2 years, the cadet inspection was flown by Flight Lieutenant George Williamson. He was with number 166 Squadron, Sea Island, Vancouver. On May 8, 1946, pilot John McElroy arrived at the Revelstoke Golf Course in an Aeronca 65 TC. This aircraft was owned by the Brisbane Aviation Company Limited of Vancouver. It crashed at Selmo 5 months later. In July 1946, an RCAF Cessna T-50 Crane crashed at McKinnon's Field near Revelstoke. On July 27th and 28th, 1968, Revelstoke sponsored the International Championship Stock Plane Air Race and an air show. Participants and spectators came from throughout the northwestern United States and Canada. A number of dignitaries were on hand, including Flying Phil Ghilardi and officials from the Federal Department of Transport. Sometime after the Second World War, the airfield property was acquired by the city of Revelstoke. A single gravel runway was built, 3,000 feet by 150 feet. George Williamson was chief pilot for BC Electric, later BC Hydro, and flew its Grumman Goose and Mitsubishi MU-2 onto this field. Williamson used this field for many years during the Mica Dam project. Later, before the flooding of the Arrow Lakes and Upper Columbia River, BC Hydro rebuilt the airport, dredging and building up the runway level well above any future high water of the lake. To prevent erosion, heavy rock was placed beside the runway. After the flooding had been completed, the new airfield was officially opened September 9, 1970. Revelstoke had a 4,500-foot airport that was eventually paved. The runway was 90% surrounded by floodplain. This created a seaplane base. The Revelstoke Airport, known as YRV, is a registered aerodrome owned and operated by the Columbia-Shuswap Regional District. The paved runway, 4,825 feet by 75 feet, was built on an engineered peninsula. The airport operates as a day Visual Flight Rules, that's VFR, facility. Facilities include a terminal building, T-hangars for private and commercial operations, and fueling facilities for Jet A and Avgas. The airport is about 5 kilometers south of the city of Revelstoke.